It's episode 580 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast. On today's show, I'm breaking down a Silver Boot Game 1 win, a big outing from Dane Dunning, and some clutch hitting from the Rangers' big bats. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm your host, Bryce Patrick, here today to talk about a great win from the Texas Rangers. I'm the host of the Locked On Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I have had a crippling addiction to Texas Rangers baseball since 2010, so I'm here to bring you the good, the bad, the ugly, because I have seen it all, and this was most definitely a good one. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick, follow the show at Locked On Raiders, and subscribe on YouTube, where we are getting closer to that 800 subscriber mark. Thank you guys so much who have already done that, and I really appreciate every single one of you taking time to listen, especially after a nice win for the Texas Rangers. It was a 6-2 win. The Rangers are now 6-10. We are through 16 games. So coming up later on, I'm going to get into a overall look where this team stands. 10% of their season is done. Yeah, I know, that's kind of crazy to say because it felt like it just started yesterday, but 10% of their season is done. I'm talking about a great bullpen game, several games from the Texas Rangers bullpen, which started off so horrendously. But first, I'm going to break down this great game for the Rangers. There was a start by Dane Dunning, who went as far as he has in the season so far this year. He gave up 2 runs, one of them off a home run from Yordan Alvarez, which was a really good pitch. Yordan Alvarez is just an incredibly good hitter, and it's very frustrating for the Rangers to have to face him for so many years. Also, kind of wild that it seems like he is doing a little bit more playing the outfield than Michael Brantley, who is DHing, and Yordan Alvarez is very much a DH-only kind of guy. He hasn't had the greatest start to the season, but that guy's still got some incredible power, and he took a great pitch, a really good pitch from Dane Dunning. I believe it was a changeup on the lower outside part of the plate and just hooked it right down into the right field bleachers and crushed it for a home run. Sometimes that'll just happen, but Rangers offense didn't worry about that. They came back in the second inning to score and tie the game. It was not an Astros lead for very long in this one. Dane Dunning went his distance. He pitched into the 6th inning for the first time this season. Second time that any Ranger starter has pitched into the 6th inning. 5 strikeouts for him. That first inning was just immaculate. The guy was painting his spots with a beautiful brush. Got Alex Bregman extremely mad, nearly mad enough to get kicked out in his first at-bat for yelling at the umpire about a pretty clearly called strike. Like, it was a great pitch, don't get me wrong, but it was completely in the strike zone. It was the top and high and away from Alex Bregman, the right-handed hitter. It was a beautiful pitch. He was making great pitches all day in that first inning. Then got into a little bit of trouble in that second inning, gave up that home run, and had to work around a little bit of base runners for the rest of the game. Even in that 6th inning, he came out, he still had a couple of runners on base, and the run only scored because of just a weird play. Nick Solak tried to make a diving catch in left field, but was unable to come up with the ball, and it kind of scooped. It was right between his legs and his glove. It was just a weird catch that I haven't seen anyone try to make. He's been primarily a second baseman. He's played a lot of left field in the last few years because that's where it seems like his future most definitely is, because he's not replacing Marcus Semien anytime soon, no matter how hot his first month is compared to Semien's, who's looked much better and has looked much better in this game as well. He had reached base a couple of times with a single that scored a run and gave the Rangers the tie in the 7th inning. Just a really great couple of appearances by him. Just smoked a ball past that shortstop and third base gap, hit the crap out of it on the ground, so it wasn't as high of a launch angle as you would like. It wasn't as hard of an exit velocity as you would like. But you know who really had a great game? Corey Seager. Corey Seager's numbers have not been super impressive to start the season, but you look at his advanced numbers, and they're right about in line with what he's doing. His launch angle is a little bit, a little bit off from what it normally is. He's not quite barreling things up just as much. His timing's just a smidge off. He only has the 1 home run this season so far. But if you watch his plate appearances, he's really putting together some very nice plate appearances. And this one, he had a 4 plate appearance day. First one was a nice plate appearance on a 1-0 pitch. He lined out 101 miles an hour and off of Valdez, just a scorching ball that he was scorching all game long. And the most impressive plate appearance, it didn't end up amounting to much. It started a little bit of a rally because it worked a walk in that 4th inning. But it was a 10-pitch at-bat. He kept fighting off pitches from Framber Valdez, fighting him off. And you know what? He ended up working a walk after being down 0-2, a 10-pitch walk, just a battling appearance. And that's what you like from your best guys. Even if they're not putting up necessarily the numbers, they're getting a lot of looks on that starting pitcher, seeing their guys being able to see 10 more pitches from Framber Valdez, see what he looks like. He ends up getting on base to start the inning. Ended up ending in a double play hit by Nathaniel Lowe, but that's all right because it was a great plate appearance, and it didn't matter that it didn't end up amounting to anything. Now, the best outcome for him in this game was a 2-1 splitter that he pulled in the right field. A really nice pitch by Ryan Stanek, who is a really good pitcher for the Houston Astros, one of their better bullpen arms in at least last year and maybe for the last couple of years. He's been really, really solid so far this season. And it was really, really nice to see what was going on there with that, just pulling that slider low and away out into the right field gap. Hit it pretty hard, 85 miles an hour off the bat, gave the Rangers a 3-2 lead. And that was a lead that would hold up. That ended up being the winning run, but Adolis Garcia was there to get a little bit more of those insurance run. And also his final plate appearance was nearly an opposite field home run, very nearly an opposite field home run on a 1-1 slider. He went 102 miles an hour off the bat the other way. Chase Yordan Alvarez back to the warning track. So these are some really, really good plate appearances. His advanced numbers are right in line where about you'd think he would be. His expected batting average is in the top 12% of baseball. His expected slugging is in the top 20%. Same with his strikeout rate, and his expected WOBA is in the top 27% of baseball. So it's not like he's chasing a whole bunch. His chase rate is right about where it's been, 57th percentile. His whiff rate's been a little bit worse. His barrel percentage is a little bit worse than it is, but in general, he's been doing about the same thing. So you think he's going to start to heat up. Things are going to even out. You can tell he's locked in at the plate. This was a really great day for him in helping that Rangers offense get those 6 runs off this scuffling Houston Astros team, which is now sitting at 4th in the American League West. And if they lose to the Rangers tonight, will be tied for last place in the division just a year after going to the World Series. Isn't that a shame? Isn't it a shame to see Houston on the way down? I absolutely love to see it. I also love to see a strong bullpen, which the Rangers have had since that winning streak that started in Seattle and continued into Oakland. Since that started on Thursday, the Rangers bullpen has been absolutely nails, and I'm going to get into that and a little bit more of where this team is 10% into their season. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline.net. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting stats and odds. They got your sports info. They got all the latest news and information. If you want to go bet on your favorite sports, you want to bet on some Texas Rangers baseball, you want to bet on, well, I don't know if they have the betting line back up for the Dallas Mavericks, who won last night. If you want to bet on them to, maybe they still got some finals odds on them. Luka MVP, finals MVP. If you want to vote on that, I think you can most definitely do that. But BetOnline.net is the best place for all of your sports betting needs. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're looking for some help on your second listen, you can check out the Locked On Now podcast. You got recaps of every MLB game with analysis from our local experts, taking fans through the season like no other network. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, let's look at this bullpen, who has been fantastic in the last 4 games for the Texas Rangers. Actually, I believe we're doing math right. Yeah, no, it's now been 5 games. So that's no tiny sample size. That is officially small sample size, which is still nice to see after how badly this bullpen was performing in the first couple of games. This was a really, really nice 5-game stretch where the Rangers bullpen has been absolutely nails. On Thursday in that game when Taylor Hearn was not himself. He did not look great. He only went 3 innings. He worked around a horrible first inning and was able to get through 3 innings, which was an accomplishment after how badly he started. And some ghosts that he probably still has from Safeco or T-Mobile, whatever Seattle's ballpark is. I believe it's T-Mobile now. But that bullpen came in and kept the Rangers in it. That was a game that felt like the Rangers desperately needed it, which is weird to say because they were, I don't even think they were 10 games into the season at that point, but it still felt like a desperate need for a win. That started off a 3-game winning streak that could have maybe been a 4-game. Now would be 5-game if they didn't drop that finale in Oakland in a stinker of an offensive performance. But in that Thursday game, the bullpen went 6 innings, did not allow a run. The only run came from Matt Bush. Friday, they went 4 innings in relief of Glenn Otto, did not allow a single run. Saturday, 3 innings, no runs in relief of Martin Perez, who was nails in his start. Sunday, now it depends on how you want to break this up, because obviously the starter in that game was Garrett Richards, and he went 2 innings. But he was the opener. So I'm counting that as part of the bullpen. Spencer Howard was obviously the primary pitcher. He's the only one who gave up runs in that Sunday loss. He gave up 2 of those. So if we're counting it like that, which I am, the bullpen went 6 innings without allowing a single run on Sunday. And on Monday, bullpen went 3 1/3 innings without allowing a single run. That's 1 run in, count 'em, 16 1/3 innings. 1 run. 16 1/3 innings for this bullpen over a 5-game stretch. That is extremely impressive given where they started the season. The starting pitchers are looking like they are going deeper into games. Now, I don't know about Spencer Howard, who is actually going to be pitching in the first game that I see at Globe Life Field, which at this point is not super ideal, unless he goes out there and looks like a miracle worker and goes like 4 or 5 innings and looks like a guy who knows where his pitches are going and does not give up a home run an inning. That would be very nice to see. But this bullpen has been much improved, and they're a big reason why this team has been able to win these games 4 in 5 during the last, literally 5 games. I mean, the starting pitching has also helped, but even when the starting pitching hasn't been there, like in the game on Thursday when Hearn was so poor, and when Spencer Howard only went 2 innings and gave up 2 runs on Sunday, this bullpen has kept this team in it. It's just the pitching has kind of gotten back to about where I thought they'd be. I mean, I don't think they're going to be this great like this last 5-game stretch. I don't think that's the kind of pitching support that the Rangers should expect long term. But I do think it's about evening out to where they should be. I want to get into a little bit more of this game because it wasn't just a great game for those number 1 and number 3 hitters in Marcus Semien and Corey Seager. But this was also a great game for Adolis Garcia, who has done very well against the Astros in his career. This is a multi-hit game for him. He's got his batting average up to 200. Finally, his OPS is above 630. It's at 640. And he had a big hit that probably should have been a grand slam. Looked like a grand slam off the bat. Adolis felt like it was an opposite field grand slam off the bat, but it didn't matter. He settled for a 3-run double, and it was beautiful. A thing of beauty. Adolis Garcia, man. This guy is so much fun. He brings so much energy to this team. And for guys who aren't big, rah, huge personality guys in Semien and Seager, who are their 2 big stars, Garver doesn't seem like a huge rah, look at me, I'm going to be really flashy and have fun, which not everybody has to do that. Like, I love a good showman in my sport. Obviously, that's why I enjoy Luka Doncic. He's very fun, and he's one of the more showy guys and more fun guys in DFW sports, but Adolis Garcia is right up there. I mean, the guy is having a blast. He is loud. He is brash. He is very fun and fiery, and the Rangers need that. I'm a little worried about like the lack of home runs on this team, mainly because I feel like there might be something a little different with the baseballs. Looking at the leaderboard for the home run leaders in baseball, there's not a whole lot of home runs, not nearly as many home runs as you would think there'd be at this point in the season. I'm wondering if Major League Baseball did something different with the baseballs again. I know that everyone's being forced to use the humidor. I'm not exactly sure how that's affecting the baseballs, but they are going for a more consistent ball all the way around Major League ballparks so that you're not having a whole bunch of variants of, balls in Toronto are flying out of there, but balls in, Texas are, less bouncy off the bat, for lack of a better word. I mean, you'll get different variation for parks because of park factors, because of how they're built, because of, weather conditions and stuff like that. But the actual ball, if you can get that consistent, I think that would be an improvement. But I don't know if I think that the baseballs are being tampered with yet again in something other than the way the Major League Baseball is telling us, like they have done several times in the past. But somebody that I really want to point out to just really quickly is Willie Calhoun. Willie Calhoun had another great game for the Rangers, came in off the bench for Andy Ibanez and had a multi-hit game, had a double, and some really nice base running as well. Even though he's not a fast guy, you can always be a good base runner. You can always be a little bit better of a base runner than your speed makes you. He's not fast. He doesn't have wheels. Joey Gallo wasn't necessarily a super fast guy, but he was a big guy who ran the bases very well. And the Rangers in general have done a really good job of running the bases as a team. Willie Calhoun continues to hit the baseball very hard. Looking at some of his advanced stats, I don't think y'all realize when I'm telling you that Willie Calhoun is hitting the baseball just about as hard as anyone and putting up some really great advanced stats. They're just not falling for him at this point. I mean it. He's got 39 plate appearances under his belt so far this season. He's got 6 hits, just 1 home run, an average below 200, an on base of 308, and slugging at 364. That's a 672 OPS. That is not what the advanced numbers say his actual numbers should be. His average exit velocity is in the top quarter of the league. His expected WOBA is in the top 20% of the league. Expected batting average, top 20%. Strikeout rate, top 4% of baseball. Walk rate, top 10% of baseball. Whiff rate, swing and miss rate, top 3% of baseball. His chase rate, the top 1% of baseball. This guy has been crushing it, absolutely crushing it. These balls just keep on finding fielders. They keep on finding gloves. They keep on going just foul. He's walking great. He is not striking out. He is not even swinging and missing. This guy is an incredible offensive player, and I'm a little frustrated the Rangers aren't giving him a few more plate appearances to kind of let those stats even out. They're going a little aggressive on the splits, which he is not a guy who has pretty aggressive left versus right splits. I get it with guys like Solak and guys like Brad Miller, and maybe a little bit with Andy Ibanez, but if you believe in this guy, and the numbers say that you should, and a lot of things about Willie's track record in the past as a prospect growing up should say this guy is going to be a middle-of-the-order kind of bat, you should give this guy a little more reign and run. But I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to look at where this team stacks up after 10% of their games have been completed. First, this episode is brought to you by RockAuto.com. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why do you endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders parts off their computer from the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You've got access to RockAuto.com with computers at home and in your pocket. You can go there and you can save up to 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership. They've got every single thing that you need. The prices are reliably low for every single customer. So go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How'd You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. Now, we are officially well, a little bit less. Once we do, like, I think one inning will technically be right on the 10%, because 162 messes up the math of 16 being perfectly 10%, but we're about 10% into the Major League Baseball season in 2022 for these Texas Rangers. And some of the things that we thought about this offense are true. Some of the things that we thought about the pitching staff are true. But let's see where they stack up. Right now, the innings leader on this team, if you guessed that it would be Dane Dunning, well, I guess through one more time in the rotation, it will be Martin Perez when he starts on Thursday. But at this point, which, by the way, that game Thursday is looking like it's going to be a very, very good matchup with how Martin Perez has been pitching and how Justin Verlander has been pitching. That's going to be a barn burner of a game. And if the Rangers win these next two, it could be the difference between a series sweep and just a series win. I'm hoping that's where it is come Thursday, but we'll see how it goes. But Dane Dunning has been one of the Rangers' best starting pitchers. We have barely seen any of John Gray. I don't think any of us thought that would happen. Glenn Otto is already up, and Brock Burke has been absolutely nails in the pen. Most of this pen, their numbers are starting to even out. We've got Spencer Patton on the IL right now, but Brett Martin has an ERA below 250. Brock Burke has an ERA below 250. Matt Bush is right around there, 257. He has the only Texas Rangers save at this point, even though the closer, at least maybe in name only, is Joe Barlow. It's funny that as soon as Woody said that Joe Barlow was the closer, Matt Bush comes on and gets the first save of the season so far. But this pen has been much better than expected. Taylor Hearn has been whacked around a little bit. He has not been able to go deep into starts. I'm a little concerned about him, but I still think I don't know. I don't know where I feel about these three guys that you're trying to figure out which one of them is going to stick in this Rangers rotation moving forward. At this point, Dane Dunning has always looked like the surest bet. I mean, his upside isn't quite as high as Taylor Hearn's, and it's also not quite as high as Spencer Howard's, but Howard has not been great so far. I mean, he's got the strikeout numbers, but overall, that home run number needs to come way, way down. Matt Moore is in the Major League pen and doing well. I need to eat a little bit of crow. I'm not going to eat all the crow because he might have one of those big blow-up spots, but he has done very well for this Texas Rangers team in some spots where they needed it, just kind of saving the bullpen some nights, and you know what, performing really well. He's got a 2.73 ERA plus. Now, that's a little inflated, but it is also because it's early season, but it's also the best in this Rangers pen. He's got a 1.42 regular ERA in 6 1/3 innings, 4 games for these Texas Rangers. He also struck out 8. The walk numbers are still way up there, which is why I'm a little concerned. He's got 7 walks in 6 1/3 innings, but hasn't allowed a home run, which is great because he has struggled with that pretty badly so far. Greg Holland is out of this Rangers pen. The Rangers took their flyer on him. They saw what he had to see, and they decided the 36-year-old is no longer working. But I didn't think that Glenn Otto was going to be up. I think he's going to stay up for a smidge. We'll see how he does. I think that's the right choice. Again, his fastball is playing up because of the very, very high spin rate. The velocity was a lot higher when he was with the Yankees. I think it was sitting around the mid-90s, like 95-ish. He had a lot more velocity in it, but I don't think he's pitching nearly as deep into games. He's done a little bit better job of being more efficient with it. And if he has to take down the velocity a little bit, and he's still got that spin rate, and it's playing 2 to 3 miles an hour harder than it actually is because of that spin rate, that's just fine. I liked what I saw from him in his first start. Again, it was against an Oakland team that was pretty decimated by COVID and had a really, really poor offensive series that entire 3-game set in Oakland. But, you can only play who's on the schedule, and he looked good against who's on the schedule. He looked good against the 2 starts he had in AAA, so we'll see how long he gets to stick in that rotation. I think they're going to send him back down once John Gray is healthy. That's probably the plan. That was probably always the plan. He is 26 years old. Spencer Howard is a little bit younger, but the Rangers have a little bit more riding on Spencer Howard. And he's a little bit more upside as well, hoping that they can get something in that weird deal where they traded 2 all-star caliber pitchers and a prospect for just one guy who had made the major leagues and at one point was a top prospect and is still losing a little bit of that shine. But I'm still a believer in Spencer Howard. I still think he can do it. I also think Taylor Hearn is definitely going to be a member of this rotation for the future. Dane Dunning, I'm leaning more towards than I was towards Taylor Hearn. If Taylor Hearn does end up just being a multi-inning reliever kind of guy, he is a nasty one, a really nasty one. The Rangers have seen that. But at this point, the Rangers do still have a losing record. They're not among the worst teams in baseball at this point. It's 6-10. They are last in the American League West. It's looking like there are no pushovers in the American League West. There most certainly is in the Central Division in the National League. The Cincinnati Reds are 3-13, so the Rangers aren't anywhere near there in terms of badness. They're not even the worst team in the American League at this point. That would be the Kansas City Royals, who are 5-9, which is a shame because I think they really are a scrappy team and might end up being a little bit better than that. Not sure about that, but the Rangers are one win away from being tied for fourth in the division as opposed to fifth. Fourth is about the target rate for this team. The Angels are much better than anyone expected. The Mariners are finally pulling it out, 10-6, leading the division right now. Oakland is still above 500 for now. I think that'll eventually falter just a little bit, but I don't know, maybe not. That Oakland team is so impossible to tell what the heck they're doing at any point, especially right after a rebuild. I feel like that's some of the times where Oakland, who outperforms their expected wins quite a bit, I feel like those are the times right after they trade off, several of their best players, when you're like, wait, how are they not bottom of the barrel trash? It's because that team has got a really good farm system and just knows how to squeak out wins, even with the most unlikely cast of characters. But this Rangers offense is one of the lowest strikeout teams in all of baseball, which I don't think I thought that was going to be where they were. Cincinnati is the highest strikeout team right now. In all of baseball, the Texas Rangers are 29th in strikeout rate, or the highest strikeout rate. So second in the lowest strikeout rate. They have a 19.7% K rate as a team. They are just behind the New York Mets. They are just ahead of the Kansas City Royals, who have always been a really great team at not striking out, especially with the personnel they've got. The Rangers are 0.8% lower strikeout rate team than them. In terms of offense in general, I go by the weighted runs created plus metric. I think it's a pretty good kind of catch-all metric for how great your offense is in general, where 100 is league average. Right now, the Rangers have a 94 weighted run created plus for their team, which is 19th in all of baseball, 1 point behind the Houston Astros, who have a below-average offense. Love to hear that as well. Base running wise, they're one of the better teams in baseball, but let's look at the pitching, because this was one of the things that we knew. We knew that this team would not be very good in pitching, but let's see where they're at as a team in general. They are, where do we go? What are we measuring this by? Okay. I think we are measuring this by ERA. If we go by ERA, the Rangers have the fourth worst ERA in baseball, which is not really what you're looking for as a team. If you go by WAR, the Rangers have, pitching WAR-wise, they are the worst team in baseball with a negative .6 WAR, and they're still not that far below 500. I think a lot of that will even out because, again, they had a really, really rough start to the season. Bullpen-wise, Greg Holland was kind of a disaster in his 4 or 5 outings as a Texas Ranger. It's a real shame. He had a great career, and it looks like in the major leagues it's pretty much done for, unless the Royals want to sign him for one more ride-it-out kind of year. But I can't imagine that going very well, or him sticking in the major leagues at any point. So they have an about average offense, one of the worst pitching staffs in baseball. There's still just a couple of games outside of 500 and just one game worse than the Astros at this point. I don't think anybody thought that. I thought the Astros would tank a little bit down, but it's looking like the Rangers, there's a lot of signs of life on this team, a lot of really great hitters, that things are just not finding holes. Baseballs are being hit hard. Guys just aren't quite figuring it out. I'm expecting the month of May to be a much better month for this Rangers team. Parks are starting to heat up. The Rangers are starting to feel better about themselves. There's less pressure of, oh my gosh, we all just signed these really big contracts, or at least, kind of the big guys we're actually expected to not be a trash baseball team. So that's kind of getting to us, but it's all starting to turn around in the right direction. I think the month of May will be a really good month for the Texas Rangers, and it'll be an even better month if the Rangers can pull out this win tonight and at least take a series split against the Astros. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rangers. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. Now, if you're looking for a second listen, go check out Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully. He brings you his unique perspective on Major League Baseball, both past and present. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. On tomorrow's show, we're breaking down a little bit more of who is doing well and numbers aren't falling and who you start to be concerned about offensively for this team. And I'm going to be talking about, hopefully, another Rangers win on Tuesday night against the hated Houston Astros. That'll do it for this edition of Locked On Rangers. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.